Have you ever wondered why some men seem to attract everything they desire almost effortlessly? When a man decides to preserve his life energy, a profound transformation occurs, not only within himself, but also in those around him. Events begin to align favorably. Small details are improvised effortlessly. It's not magic, but impeccable precision. Seminal retention stabilizes the internal frequency you project outward. Your energy stops scattering and begins to focus silently. With concentration and intention, this accumulated force becomes perfect synchronicity. No need to seek attention, recognition, or opportunity. Everything comes naturally, for you now embody pure creation. The signal you transmit is exactly what you seek. Your desires cease to be diluted, and your inner self is no longer cluttered. You are centered. You radiate a clear and defined vibration, and the universe responds accordingly. First section, the exit sign there, are men who walk into a room and barely receive a glance before being ignored. Others, without a word, transform the atmosphere the moment they walk through the door. It's not a matter of size or superficial charisma, but of pure energy, a healthy nervous system, and a body that isn't constantly losing its life force. The practice of semen retention radically alters this signal. It transforms your physiology, going from a weak transmitter to a powerful and precise one. The difference is enormous. One emits only noise, the other transmits authority. It's not about speaking louder, but about being perfectly calibrated. When your body stops wasting energy on continuous emissions, it begins to strategically store it. And pent-up energy always generates a powerful field of attraction. Your autonomic nervous system constantly reveals your inner state through your micro-gestures, posture, gaze, and heart rate. Many men don't realize how evident their exhaustion is. Shortness of breath, tense movements, a trembling voice. All these reflect a lack. With retention, however, the nervous system completely resets. It stops oscillating between tension and collapse and regains stability. It self-regulates. The result is increased heart rate variability, a subtle but very powerful indicator of inner control. This great variability is common among elite soldiers, top athletes, and stoic leaders. It's body language that communicates even in silence. This signal doesn't require conscious explanation, even if people react instinctively. They change their tone of voice with you, soften their gaze. They give you more space in the dialogue than others. It's pure intuition. Your nervous system is telling them, I'm not disturbed, I'm not afraid, I don't need anything from you. And in a world accustomed to dismissing need, this neutrality becomes magnetic, powerful, even unsettling. Suddenly, people start offering you things you didn't ask for, not out of manipulation, but because their bodies trust yours. This is how an authentic presence emerges beyond words. Energy never lies. If you give it carelessly, your signal inevitably loses its strength. You can feign confidence, but your eyes will betray nervousness, your back will shrivel, and your mind will betray you. Conversely, if you maintain this energy, the current intensifies, first subtly, then inexorably. Over time, your mere presence changes other people's behavior. They respect you more, listen attentively, and ask questions instead of interrupting. Not because you've changed the way you speak, but because you've stopped filtering out what's important. Seminal retention transforms your nervous system into a weapon of absolute silence. And in this noisy world, silence consistently triumphs over noise. People walk around with inexplicable tension. Their bodies are tired, their thoughts foggy, and their willpower completely exhausted. They don't realize they're living in a permanent energy deficit. Every relaxation, every distraction, every shallow breath has lowered their blood pressure enough to go unnoticed until it becomes permanent. But a man who maintains his charge begins to reverse this decline. His breathing slows, his gaze stabilizes, his tone deepens. He stops pursuing because he no longer needs to. This type of person changes his signal. And once this signal is changed, the entire system of life, the rhythm and the results of individuals begin to reorganize around it. Part 2, triggers. The transformation is not immediate, but gradual and profound. By practicing retention, your body begins to function as an energy accumulator rather than a constant dissipator. This accumulated energy not only strengthens you physically, but also completely reconfigures your electromagnetic presence. Your energy field becomes denser and more coherent. People feel it even before they see you enter the room. It's as if your presence precedes your physical arrival. This isn't some empty spiritual metaphor, but a measurable biophysical reality. Studies on cardiac coherence show that the heart generates the most powerful electromagnetic field in the human body, extending several meters around us. When your life force energy is conserved, this field expands and becomes more orderly. Section 3 on reactive circuits. The world around you remains the same people, the same rooms, the same daily chaos. But the fundamental difference is that your brain is no longer constantly reacting to all of this. Most men spend their lives locked in a state of constant defensiveness. Every comment is perceived as a threat. Every delay is seen as a personal insult. Every challenge is interpreted as proof of their incompetence. This is the result of an exhausted and overstimulated nervous system. But with semen retention, something extraordinary happens. Reactivity gradually begins to fade. You no longer flinch from shadows. You no longer recoil from friction. You begin to see things as they are, not through the filter of emotional exhaustion, but with crystal clarity. Your attention is filtered by a brain structure called the reticular activating system. This structure determines what information reaches your conscious awareness and what is ignored. When your system is frozen, it constantly prioritizes threats and distractions. But when you're in a state of intense retention, this filter completely readjusts. It begins to select signals that correspond to strength, opportunity, and growth. You hear different words in the same sentence. You perceive nuances rather than tone deafness. You perceive micro-advantages that others don't. That's why you're starting to feel like reality is shifting in your favor. It's not. You're simply finally on the right frequency. Where you once saw rejection, you now perceive perfect timing. Where you once perceived an insult, you now perceive another's insecurity. Where you once froze in discomfort, you now act with calculated aggression. Holding back not only stores energy, but also sharpens your ability to interpret the field in which you operate. And interpretation is essential, because once your brain stops viewing every moment as a threat, you can begin to use it as leverage. Not only are you surviving better, but you're playing smarter, listening more closely, reacting more slowly, making moves that create larger ripples, and the world is responding in kind. The universe hasn't suddenly become kinder. You've simply stopped sabotaging your access to it. The woman who previously ignored you is now curious. The opportunity you missed is now obvious. The social signal you misinterpreted is now perfectly timed. None of this happened by chance. It's the result of a fundamental shift in your nervous system. You're no longer haunted by noise. You're calm, collected, and focused. And the world is returning the favor. Not because it owes you anything, but because it always has. You just weren't in the right frame of mind to notice. The hidden science of semen retention, a deep dive into the little-known aspects of the practice. We discovered that semen retention activates specific hormonal cascades that go far beyond simply preserving zinc and protein. When a man practices semen retention for extended periods, his body begins producing optimized levels of testosterone, not in temporary spikes, but sustainably. This hormonal balance, it directly affects the production of key neurotransmitters. Dopamine, serotonin, and norepinephrine are regulated more efficiently, creating what neuroscientists call a biochemical state of jiffluju. In this state, the mind functions with extraordinary clarity and efficiency. The pineal gland, often referred to as the third eye by spiritual traditions, is also profoundly affected by retention. This manifests itself in very concrete ways. Your ability to stay focused on long-term projects is increased tenfold. Your mental stamina for difficult tasks is greatly increased. Your creativity soars because the same life-creating energy can generate art, business, and innovation. Many of history's greatest geniuses, consciously or unconsciously, practiced a form of withholding. Tesla, Leonardo da Vinci, Newton, all channeled their sexual energy into their masterpieces instead of dispersing it on fleeting aspirations. The social and leadership dimension. When a person systematically practices restraint, their natural leadership capacity grows exponentially. This isn't because they develop specific leadership techniques, but because their very presence begins to radiate the qualities we instinctively associate with natural leaders. Confidence becomes unshakable because it no longer depends on external validation. Decision-making accelerates because the mind is no longer clouded by conflicting impulses. Communication gains power because each word carries the weight of a focused nervous system. In a group, other people will naturally seek your advice, even on topics in which you have no particular expertise. Women will see you as a protective and stable figure. Children will be naturally drawn to your serene presence. This is neither manipulation nor technique. It is the natural result of a nervous system that functions through abundance rather than scarcity. When we don't need anything from anyone, paradoxically, everyone wants to give us something. The hidden spiritual aspect. Although this text has focused primarily on the scientific and practical aspects of retention, it would be a mistake to ignore the spiritual dimension of this practice. Over the millennia, all serious spiritual traditions have incorporated some form of sexual energy conservation, not because they considered sex evil or dirty, but because they recognized that this specific energy is the most powerful that human beings possess. It is literally the creative force of life, cultivated and directed consciously. It can bring about transformations that border on the miraculous. Experienced practitioners report experiences ranging from heightened intuition to the mystical. The ability to read others is greatly refined. Dreams become more vivid and often prophetic. Synchronicity increases to the point that life seems orchestrated by a higher intelligence. Some describe a sense of connection to something much greater than themselves, not necessarily in a religious sense, but through a direct recognition of the interconnectedness of all existence. In advanced practice, for those who wish to go beyond the basic levels, advanced practices can greatly amplify the benefits of retention. These include specific breathing techniques that circulate sexual energy up the spine, visualization exercises that transform sexual energy into creativity and personal power, and meditation practices that integrate retained energy with higher consciousness. The key to all these advanced practices lies in patience and consistency. The most profound benefits come not from short periods of intense retention, but from sustained conscious practice over time. It is also crucial to understand that retention is not suppression. It is not about denying or repressing sexuality, but rather about elevating and perfecting it. The goal isn't to never experience sexual pleasure again, but to transform your relationship with this energy from one that is compulsive and dispersive to one that is conscious and directed. The challenges and how to overcome them. The practice of retention is not without its challenges. The first few days and weeks can be particularly challenging as the body and mind adjust to new energy patterns. Some men experience what's called a stagnation period, a time when relief temporarily diminishes, and they may feel less energetic. This is completely normal and temporary. It's simply a recalibration of the nervous system. Over time, energy not only returns, but it also returns amplified and unconsciously controlled. Other difficulties include nocturnal ejaculation, which can leave some men feeling like they've failed in their practice. It's important to understand that nocturnal emissions are natural and not a conscious break in retention. The body simply releases excess to maintain balance and integration into modern life. One of the most important aspects of restraint practice is successfully integrating it into modern life. We live in a hypersexualized culture where we are constantly bombarded with stimuli specifically designed to trigger our sexual urges. The key is to create an environment conducive to this practice. This may include limiting exposure to explicit sexual content, developing hobbies and interests that channel your creative energy, and surrounding yourself with people who respect and support your approach. It's also crucial to develop a strong personal philosophy, explaining your reasons for pursuing this practice. Without a clear philosophical foundation, it's easy to get sidetracked by challenges or temptations. But when you fully understand the benefits and have a clear vision of what you want to become, this practice becomes not only sustainable, but inevitable. Semen retention isn't for everyone, and it's not inevitable. It's a practice reserved for men willing to trade fleeting pleasures for lasting potency, instant gratification through profound transformation. This book is for those who understand that true masculinity isn't about taking all you can get, but about consciously cultivating all you can become. In a world that constantly encourages us to indulge our every impulse, seek every pleasure, and satisfy our every desire, depriving ourselves is an act of radical rebellion. It's a statement that you have mastery over your biology, that you can consciously direct your energy, and that you can transform yourself into something greater than you currently are. Men who master this practice not only change their lives, but also become role models for other men seeking an alternative to the exhaustion and disorientation that characterize modern masculinity. They become living examples of what is possible when a man takes complete control of his most basic energy and directs it toward excellence rather than mediocrity. Ultimately, semen retention is much more than just a sexual practice. It's a path to mastery. Mastery of impulses, mastery of energy, mastery of destiny. This is an invitation to discover who you can become by stopping wasting your life, force and consciously cultivating it. Preserve your energy, and it will preserve your greatness.